Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Enhancing Your World show with Chris and Larkin. I'm Chris Albo and your co-host. Larkin will be joining us here shortly. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject, I believe. It's playing your part in our community. We've talked on the show a lot about unity and oneness and the collective and, all that stuff. And what we see from our external society is a lot of separation, a lot of division, a lot of uh, elevating oneself or other people. And that really plays a part in our psyche and in our heart and in our emotions of how we go about living in this everyday life, and how we show up in the world. It's been my example through my life that we're always playing a part in the collective effect. Our causation of ourselves and in our lives comes from the way we think, the way we feel, the way we behave, the way we react, the way we hold ourselves, our presence, our frequency. And the more open we are to different perspectives, the more opportunity we have to see contrast. The more opportunity we have to see contrast, the more opportunity we have to grow beyond ourselves and what we've known up to this point. I know that in my life I've gotten caught up sometimes saying, well, this is good and this is bad, this is right and this is wrong, and and that maybe can serve us on some level of the cognitive mind, and help direct us through the infinity of possibilities of where to go from here. But the reality of it is we're all as enlightened as we're going to be right now in this moment. And how we grow beyond this now moment, this collective, is by surrendering our egoic story, our preferences sometimes, to expand beyond. Now, as an entrepreneur and a coach and mentor and leader, whatever you want to say there, what I've learned is sometimes we have to show up in ways that we didn't expect. Something happens within our relationships with ourselves, with other people, that gives us a paradigm shift, and that allows us to grow beyond our past comforts, our past plans, our past beliefs. And the more that we can step into that power of, my purpose is to live the best life, the best version of me, and the effects are going to be seen and experienced both internally and externally. And the more we walk in unity, the more harmony and more peace and the more unconditional love that we can experience for ourselves and those that we serve with our life. The beautiful thing and about life is it does end. And how we live beyond ourselves is how we lived, our legacy, the things that we left behind. And so there's a lot of us right now in the collective that are looking to break, generational trauma or generational patterns of addiction, of emotional lack of emotional intelligence, I should say, because we've been taught cognitively how to live life. And when we live through life through the mind, there's always going to be a seeming duality of what we know, what we've experienced, and what we don't, what we haven't yet. And the more we live into that, the more whole we become for ourselves and other people. Society has set us up, in the past. If we look back, before the modernization and industrialization of our planet, folks lived in community. They depended on one another, and they still do, like especially indigenous tribes and people who live off the land. Well, they understand that everything is a relationship, and how they live within that relationship and play their part, play their purpose, play their role, is the success of the collective. And it doesn't allow for necessarily ego, to say, yeah, I want to go, if I'm a hunter and in the tribe, and I don't feel like it today. Sorry, guys, you're just going to have to go hungry. That didn't necessarily happen. And in the in the modernization of our current society, what we did, it seems to be that we started focusing on the I, because that's truly what we can control, is how do I respond? How do I react? How do I show up? That's personal leadership. And that's the only type of leadership role that we can really play, unless someone that we're walking with or in our lives is depending on us. Then they're choosing us to be the leader in that certain thing. If somebody is a really good cook, for example, it would be silly not to allow them to live their passion out and cook, and prepare food for people. Like, we all have a role in our relationships in everyday life. And the question that I have is, how do you show up? Are you only focused on yourself? Are you only focused on how you're currently feeling, how you're currently thinking, and how you currently believe that you need to be, for the benefit of yourself? And if that's your focus, well, then what about the others? What about the effects? When we make a mistake or a misstep, and we blame, shame, guilt, deny our responsibility or our accountability for the part that we played, how are we truly growing as individuals, as well as our community that we all say that we want to have? It's been pretty fascinating over the last decade of how many people that I've met, and that I've gotten the opportunity to work with, whatever. And their goal is to build a community. And it's like, okay, like, we all want to build a community. We all want to be a part of community. We all want to have that safety and diversity. But what seems to divide us a lot of times, and I can speak for myself as well, is looking at just our part. And I was talking to a friend yesterday about having a healing center, and it was like, I loved having the healing center because I wanted to be able to provide people the opportunity to show up in their passions and be able to chase their dreams. And a lot of times we have a hard time getting out there and doing those things, because we don't know where to go. We don't know how to show up. And I was giving them the example of the weekly meditation that I hold. And I said, honestly, if there's businesses in your community, because he doesn't live in the area that I live, so I don't know of all the businesses. But if there's a business that you can rent space from when they're not using it, then that's a great opportunity for you to step into that and one, provide value to the business owner when they're not using their space, and two, to provide service to the greater community. And third, you get to show up the way you want to show up. It's really hard for us, and I'll take this on as my own truth. It's been really hard sometimes for me to serve in ways that I didn't feel like was in my highest self. Working a job, or working, doing something that wasn't the highest. This would be a good way to put that. We're of service, but we feel like we can give more. As a energy healer, as a empowerment guide, as an entrepreneur, sometimes in my past, I was like, I have a choice. I can go work for somebody else and make a little bit more income, but that's going to take away my freedom to be able to show up the way I want to show up, when I want to show up, how I want to show up, all those things, because I'm going to have an outside obligation. And what I found over the last year is you can have both. You can have both. You can play both roles. You can walk both in both dualities. You can still be an entrepreneur and still be, an employee, if you will, and have that steady income, because it's, because it's possible. And, that is the beauty of where we are at in this time, is we can be adaptable. We can change. We can shift our perspectives. And when we shift our perspectives, it heals our minds from lack. Just speaking on one of my side gigs of, working at a local gas station. It doesn't pay great, but it's income. And I don't buy anything there because I don't consume sodas and, candy and, those types of things. So, in a lot of aspects, 5 years ago, I don't think I would have ever caught myself going there and doing that job. And, when I was searching for, when I was in relationship with my fiance, and I was looking for some additional income, I was applying to all these different jobs because I was just trying to find something, to help get us through some hard times. And it wasn't until she left to go continue her journey in another way that I found this job. But what I had told her before she left was, I need to find an income, a job that allows me flexibility so I can still do the things that I need to do as a healer, as a coach, as a father, as a partner to you, because my responsibility is to the whole family, to the whole tribe. It's not to just myself. It's not just to you. It's about the whole thing. And when I found this opportunity, I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I need. I can come and go as I need. And as long as I get my job done, of course, they're not gonna have an issue. And they've given me a lot of they've accommodated a lot, but they also appreciate me a lot. They don't want me to leave. They want to work things out. They want me to stay because of what I bring. It's not just because I stock shelves at the store and I do a good job. It's who I am as a person. And that's playing your part. That's playing your role. It's playing into your purpose. Your purpose is to be the best version of yourself in all aspects for the greater good, because truthfully, like, I would love to just sit out there with a sign and warn people or share awareness with people of what they're doing to their body by consuming these commercial products. All the sodas, and a lot of these people are obesely overweight and out of shape and in bad health, and then they come into there and they're grabbing all these high fructose corn syrup drinks, or the fake sugars that are known to cause all kinds of issues in our body, or candy, or whatever. And they don't realize that those things that they're consuming are becoming part of them, and the reason that they have disease in their self, in their life, is because of what they're consuming. And that works in all aspects. It's not only just what we eat with our eat, but it's also what we digest with our mind. And what are we reading, what are we watching, what is it that we're exposing ourselves to? And that's just part of it. The other part is, how do we respond to it? One of the conversations that I had with my fiance was about how we're destroying the planet. And we do that without even really thinking about it, by our consumables and the packaging and all the things that it takes to get products to our house or to the store or whatever. And how that has really created the pollution and the challenges that we see in Mother Earth. Now, I'm not here to blame anybody or shame anybody. This is just to create awareness so we can make different choices. We can look at, do I really need that? Or can I go without for a little bit? And I think fasting, is a great method, a great way to train ourselves to know what is an absolute must and what we don't need, because a lot of us eat and consume things out of boredom, or looking for a sugar fix or some kind of gratification. One of the things that's great to hear, Cindy, I'm glad you fast too. Do you do water fast? And if so, how many days? I typically do water fast, 3 or 4 times a year. I strictly drink water, just do the water fast. And I've gone as long as 8 days on a fast. And I'm not a big person. So, it's possible. I hear people all the time, I can't go that long, I'll die. No, you won't. And whatever weight you lose, you'll gain back when you get off your fast, as long as you're proper, again, putting the right things in. You're going to actually be better off health-wise after the fast than before you fasted, and the science behind it, basically unhealthy cells die faster than our healthier cells. So when we're not feeding ourselves these things that are help toxifying our bodies, our body has an opportunity to rid itself of those things, and the weaker cells, the disease cells, the cancer cells, those kinds of things. And then when we get back onto eating again, when we break the fast, with clean, healthy foods, fruits, veggies, I would even say meats, for those who choose to eat meat. Because there's definitely things in meat that we can't supplement, from my awareness anyway. And maybe I'm wrong with that. Maybe I am. But I know for myself, when I went vegan and vegetarian for a few years, my body did not like it. I had issues with my health. And so by bringing back meat on a smaller scale, I don't eat. When I was in my 20s and stuff like that, I barely ate any fruits or vegetables. It was mostly meat, breads, pastas, those types of things. But my body felt stronger. I had more endurance, those types of things. So that's my choice, and that's the way I choose to walk through this life, and that's playing my part. And I try to be as responsible as I can with it, which means I'm trying to consume foods that are ethically sourced. The more local, the better, because the less distribution, the less carbon imprint, all those different things. And that allows me to live in a vibration that feels right for me. I don't have to live with the guilt and the shame as much, because I know I'm doing what I can to play my part, and picking up trash and doing all that kind of stuff when I'm out and about. Everybody can do that, and not everybody does. There's a lot of people that still throw their trash out of their window of their car. You can see it on the expressways and exit ramps, and I don't understand that, because um, you can put that somewhere where it belongs and not on the side of the road. But that comes from lack of awareness and lack of respect. One probably for themselves somewhere in there, because when you really love and respect yourself, you're not gonna cause harm to other things. It's this very focused thing of, I want my car to be clean, or whatever it is. It's just short-term thinking. And Larkin brought this show idea to me this morning as we were talking. And we were talking about back in the more tribal days, how everybody had their needs met, rather, because of the community. And we've all kind of been conditioned to think about ourselves first. This is my property. This is my house. This is my car. This is my stuff. This is, and I'm going to hoard it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to protect it. And it's only through my examples of how I've lived life, and being robbed, and loaning my car out for months at a time because somebody got in a car wreck and they didn't have the means to get it fixed, and that I learned my part, my role in my community. And it doesn't always serve me in the immediate gratification moment, but it does in the long run, in some way, whether it's known or unknown. I've also been in relationships where I overgave, and when I started realizing that there was an Aini, sacred reciprocity, within that relationship, I had to shift a little bit to make sure that I wasn't giving more than I could get. I wasn't giving more than I was receiving, because if you continue to do that, eventually you're going to be energetically bankrupt, and you're going to need time to recharge. You're going to need time. You're going to need more time to rebound, because you don't already have enough. And I would challenge most of us, especially in third world or in first world countries, rather, we already have enough. If we have a home, if we have clothes, if we have food in the refrigerator, we have more than we need for now. We're going to need more later. And that's part of playing our role, playing our part, whether it's as an entrepreneur, self-employed healer. It doesn't matter what it is, an employee, whatever. We're all playing a part in society, in our collective humanity, on our collective planet. There's not one thing that one person can do that's not going to affect somebody else. And we're not even talking in the higher dimensions of energy, of 5D and 4D and all those. I'm just talking in physical reality, in duality, third, in the 3D world. There's nothing you can say, do, that isn't going to have some kind of effect on other people. So, playing your part, in my view, anyway, is being that best version of you. You want to be a healer? Be a freaking healer. You don't have to get paid for it to be a healer. You heal with a smile. You heal by holding space for somebody, by letting them share and express things that are bothering them or are challenging to them. Maybe give some insights of, some possibilities of how they can overcome that situation if that deems appropriate or not. But we play our part every day, whether we realize it or not. And the more we awaken to that purpose, awaken to our higher self, our higher vibration of self, the more we're going to hold an authentic truth. These are the things that I agree with. These are the things that I feel are limited. These are the ways that I'm trying to create, that I'm creating solutions in my life and ripple them out to hopefully have a collective effect. Now, me not going and buying a soda every day is cutting down on 365 bottles a year. That's out there in the world. Now, does that mean that I'm making a huge dent in the pollution? No. But I'm doing what I can. And that's enough. And that's the part that I feel like we lose track of, because our society puts these certain human beings on pedestals. We'll call them celebrities or whatever it is, right? And, oh, look at them, and look at, they have these big houses and they have this, and oh, what a great life it must be. And I don't know. I've never lived their life, so I don't know what their life is like. But I have had that blessing of living an extravagant lifestyle, and it is pretty nice in the fact that you can be a lot more fluid, and you don't have to be as mindful about what you're doing or what you're spending or, that kind of thing. But at the same time, you're creating a lot of distraction. You're creating a lot of, one of the things I hear a lot within my own head and working with my clients was, I just want to get back to this place, in time, where I had this, or I was achieving this, or I was in this type of relationship or whatever. And, that's challenging in a lot of ways, because we can never go back to that as far as the materialism of it. But what we can go back to is the vibration of it. How did that feel? When we're in a loving relationship, that love that we're giving somebody, we're getting back, because it's coming from within us. Robin O'Neill, here, let me just share this. Being present by playing our part by being present, merging. Yeah, unity, right? It's about unity. It's already, it's about realizing that we're already unified. We're already one. That's the illusion that we're separate. We're not separate. We're separated by our observations, maybe our energy. I was thinking about this the other day about prisms and how they, you look at a prism and it all looks like, the same crystal or the same piece of glass or whatever it is. But when you push light through it, how it separates it into different colors, into a spectrum. Well, that's our humanity. That's consciousness. That's what's that spectrum of vibrational energy is what distinguishes a rock from a crystal, or one human from another. It's energy. And then we internalize that mentally, and we create these conditions, these rules, these beliefs, these ways of seeing things that make us seem like we experience life from a seeming separation. And in a way we do, because maybe I'm a little bit of a blue light or a green light, or whatever, and maybe you're a little orange or red right now in your frequency. That doesn't mean that we're not already one, because the source is what's connecting us all. With just the way that we're showing up is a little bit different, right? So playing your part, what it is your part in the part that you play in everyday life. Do you play the hero? Do you play the martyr? Do you play the victim? Do you play that what you do doesn't matter, that no one cares, or that you believe that, everything, you deserve the best of everything? Well, guess what? You already got it. If you can't realize it yet, you don't have gratitude. And if you don't appreciate what you have, then it will never be enough. Personally speaking, I've learned that. If you don't appreciate who you have in your life, what you have in your life, what you've achieved in your life up to this point, if you're not totally grateful and appreciative of that, that's where you could work first, because that's where abundance comes from. You realize that everything that we do in the moment is abundant. There's infinite possibilities of how we live our lives. Always. It could change like that. I was talking to somebody at work today about, someone that went out and, got drunk, and they were swinging from a rope swing, and, he broke his back. And, I was sharing a story of my ex-wife, my son's mom, and how she was raised that starting at 11, her grandfather fell in their pool in the backyard and broke his neck, quadriplegic. And there was nothing more humbling than sitting with somebody that couldn't even scratch their own nose. And that taught me so much about relationships and about being a caregiver rather than always a caretaker. Because if we're taking, it's always about me, right? But when we're giving, it's like, oh, I'm helping this individual and I'm receiving in place. I get the opportunity to receive when I give. Because I'm giving care, I'm going to receive back that care. Maybe not from that person. Maybe not from, other things. That's the egoic story of trying to intellectualize, conceptualize our lives. But I've, from my experience, and that's all I try to speak from on this podcast. I've read hundreds of books over 20 years. I've been part of so many different programs and so many different things. I could tell you about everybody else's teachings, but the reason that I talk about my experience is because that's unique to me. That's the part that I get to play. And I'm not regurgitating what someone else has shared with me. For the most part. I tell stories, so and they include other people. So there you go. You can't get away from unity. And the more we realize that, the more in harmony and in peace we can walk, the more unconditional loving we can walk in everyday life, even when things aren't showing up the way we expected them to. And that's the hardest time. That's the hardest time to show up as our true self, is when things aren't working the way we want them to. But then we are showing our true self, our true colors of, how we're thinking, how we're feeling, how we're acting, whether we're bitter or angry or, any of those things. That's just your authentic truth in that moment. And it will shift, hopefully, with time, with healing and time and energy. That's going to work. So playing your part, what is the best, how can you show up your best self each and every day? And know that it's enough. I'd love to get some suggestions on that. Because I personally think it's about showing up authentically. Even if you're having a tough time, just say, hey, I'm having a tough day today. I don't feel so good today. I feel sad today. I'm emotional today. I'm disappointed in some outcomes. That's your truth in that moment. And now that you acknowledge it, now you have the opportunity to move past it. If you pretend that everything is okay, if you pretend that you're in joy all the time when you don't, when you have anger and sadness within you, I mean, and this is a problem with the mindset coaching. Just to create a vibration of a certain way we want to be seen or the way we want to feel, we can create a delusional self that believes that. And I know I've done that in my life. Oh, I did this for all the right reasons. And it wasn't until hindsight was like, oh, dang, I could have shown up in an entirely different way. And I didn't see it because I was in my own arrogance, my own ignorance. And I allowed my story of my beliefs, of what I felt and what I thought, to limit my ability to show up. And working in collaboration is challenging. Working in community is it's challenging. It's way easier to walk by yourself when no one's poking at you. No one's telling you that, what you did hurt them, or, that you had an effect that you weren't seeing. And but how are you ever going to grow if you're not looking for that understanding? How are you ever going to evolve? Thank you, Kim. Trying to do my part to keep it real, man. and sometimes that hasn't been the best. I haven't shown up the best way that I wanted to show up, because I was trying to keep it real, and I was emotionally involved, and I was emotionally hurt, and I was looking for understanding. I was trying to find closure in things that didn't make sense. And, because I thought we had agreed and we had made arrangements and we had done all these things, and it didn't show up the way that we were expecting. Oh, Larkin's trying to pop in. Hi, Larkin.
Hey, I'm having camera issues again today.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
If I pop out and in, that's okay. I've got a broadcast later and it needs to work. I don't know why every couple weeks my computer doesn't let it access Steamyard access my camera, which is But anyway, awesome. I love the title that you gave the show today.
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier about, being in community, and when we realize that we are in community, we always have enough, right? Oh, she dropped out. Man, I love technology sometimes. It's so awesome.
Wait, I dropped out? Oh.
Yeah, okay. Rolling with the punches. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, I might pop out. I want to get my camera working. This is weird. But yeah, I mean, it's neat that we both came up with that. I think this is really important. So what have you covered on this so far?
Oh, I've just been sharing a little bit of how to show up as your best self. Realizing that showing up as your best self is part of the community, and to be mindful of our effect by the way we show up.
Absolutely.
I think that's the best way to summarize the last 30 minutes.
No, that's good. That's important. I think, another aspect of that, one of the reasons I think this is so important is because we have so much depression and anxiety and things like that. And unfortunately, we think that that's the norm.
Right.
And it's only the norm for, the last couple of generations in this society. And not even the last couple generations, just very recent. But if you look at and you compare in a healthy way, you compare, how clans worked, versus how our society is working. What you see is, we always talk about, having false, fakeness, right? Like
Right.
false aspects of life. If you look at the way our society is, it's really not set up to be real. I mean, it's really the way we're living, we believe is real because it's our norm, but actually it's not real. We're not really living in, accordance with what is real. And so we have taken away the natural and innate purpose that each person has in a community. That might be their natural strength, their natural gifts, whatever, however you want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've recreated it. And then we have created pseudo realities that unfortunately, our mind is so impressionable that our mind is believing are real because we need that so much. I mean, if you think about what we need to feel heard. We need to feel that we have a purpose and we're useful.
Right.
We need to feel that we belong, right? We need security. So there's all these aspects of us that we need that we don't really get. And then what happens is you have situations like COVID. I mean, this drove me absolutely insane. I had to work through this with so many clients. Oh, well, I'm depressed now because of COVID. Well, you know what, guys? I don't have any sympathy for that. I have sympathy for the fact that we're in a society that is brainwashing us to believe that.
Right.
But in actuality, that was the best thing that could have happened to my clients. Not being able to go out and drink, not being able to go out and do their volleyball, not being able to go into work, having to spend some time alone with yourself is one of the ultimate realities.
Right.
People didn't used to do that all the time. You weren't locked in your homes. You could go out and meet someone at the park. You could go over to somebody else's house. It's not like we were locked down, but we weren't really locked away. But yet the mindset was programmed to believe, oh my God, we're in a prison. We're imprisoned. We're trapped. No, we're not. So if we were already utilizing the self-awareness, the time, the interaction that we have, I mean, we're already in a society that's completely technology dominated now.
Sure.
So of all the times in history where, when people had polio or all sorts of other diseases in my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents' time where they literally weren't allowed to even see their neighbors. This wasn't any of that. And yet our reaction was so over the top. So my point is not to belittle whatever any of you experienced, but to ask you to step back and take a look throughout history at how this has all transformed. And because we're given these false realities that we think outside of ourselves we need in order to be fulfilled, to be abundant, to be happy, to be joyful. And it's really bred an immediate gratification mentality, a mentality of not having to have communication and social skills, a mentality of me first, a mentality of, in order to be somebody, I have to be a social media star and a multimillionaire with 10 houses,
right,
3 Ferraris, 2 boats, and an island,
right,
where I work an hour a week.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but this isn't reality. And you may think it's reality for some people, but it's really not reality. And I think that in our talking about this today, it's really important to look at how this is affecting you in your own life. If you had grown up in a Native American culture where, let's say, you were talented at fishing, or you were talented at basket weaving, or you were talented at problem solving, you would have naturally grown up doing what you loved, what you were good at. You would have been valued by your society. You would have felt secure. You would have felt, you knew you were needed.
Right. Well, and you're going to get over your feelings, right? Like,
right.
So I gave that example. If I was a hunter, earlier, if you're a hunter, you're not going to say, I don't feel like it today. Sorry, guys, you're just gonna go hungry. Oh, she fell off again.
Right here, I can hear you. I'm just playing with my camera. I don't know why it's doing this.
All right. So I mean, and I think that's the important part. I mean, our modern society has taught us and conditioned us a lot of ways to be egotistic, to be individualized, and to put, as you said, me first. But the way that this is sustainable is when we look at the effect and how we're passing it forward, how we're, I mean, unfortunately, our kids, my kids' generation and my grandkids' generation, they're not going to know a lot of different animals and plants because they're going extinct. I don't know if she's coming back on or not. And that was because we didn't take a responsibility to be caregivers of this planet. We didn't see the value in it because it wasn't monetized, or maybe it was a nuisance, or whatever. And that really affects a lot more than just our own lives, in positive and negative ways, I would say, because everything is energy. You can't have one without the other. Maybe it's skewed a little bit, but energy itself always has three states of polarity, so the duality that contains it, whether you want to call that positive and negative, and where they come back together to create unconditional love, neutrality, presence, whatever. And that's the beauty of it, is when you recognize that there's a lower vibration, or, oh man, we weren't walking in the highest ways together. We weren't communicating effectively, and collaborate and communicate on how to overcome those limitations. Well, you just alchemize that. And now you have a new opportunity to create something new, a new beginning. And, each one of us individuals, everybody on this podcast, everywhere on this planet, me, everything, we have a uniqueness about us. That's for sure. That's our purpose, is to be our unique self in relation to the collective. That's unconditional love to me. And the giving and the receiving and keeping score and, all that kind of stuff, a lot of times makes things a lot more challenging than it has to be. When we learn to humble ourselves a little bit and understand that we're not perfect, and we make mistakes, and we're all growing, we're all healing, and we hold that sacred space for one another, we can come back into alignment with one another. And that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in my life. I've shared on this podcast before stories of my family and my dad, and there was a story that he just shared with me a couple weeks ago when I first got on this empowerment kick, and I wanted to stand up for how I was mistreated as a child, and I just let him have it. He still holds that to this day. It still hurts him. And we got an opportunity to talk about it, and I said, yeah, the thing is, I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel loved. And the thing that I yelled at him was, why can't you ever just say, you did a great job? You did the best you could with what you had. It was always, well, you could do better. You should have done it my way. You should have done it this way. Never accepted, like, and I let him have it one day, and I was like, I hated the fact that I grew up the way I did. And that was a big trade-off for me. That was a big training moment for me, because I stood up for myself. Hi, Leon. The psychic readings are on Larkin's other shows, and that's not today. Maybe she has one this evening, but she's not currently on here, so I can't give you the exact time and date that she does those. So I apologize. But what I've learned from that since that day was how unconditional loving we are towards each other. Even when we don't like each other, we're still going to be there to help each other out. You know, when the chips were down, when my back was against the wall, when I had no one else to turn to, my father was there. Not always in the nicest way, but he was there. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's been a great reminder for me, and a great teaching, and a great lesson for me too. Like, you know, maybe you don't feel like it today. Show up anyway. Someone's counting on you. You know, and being able to stand in that power and lead yourself out of the muck of the lower thoughts and feelings, and say, you know, I matter. I'm material. Those thoughts and feelings, they're going to come and go. And they don't have to control me, because I choose. I choose to do what I choose to do. There she is.
Now I'm on my phone, so we'll see how this works.
All right.
To restart my whole computer. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You know, we're organized chaos. We run with the flow. Welcome to fucking presence.
Right? Seriously, guys, this is funny because I built all my own websites. I did all my own technology stuff by myself. I built all those fancy dancy automatic websites where everything was automatic for people. I've done all that stuff for years. And this is just absolutely like ridiculous. But anyway, I think I don't who the hell knows what you said while I was gone. But the point is, guys, I think the point is we're trying to shake up your reality a little bit, and shake up, you know, shake whoever's listening out of this like brainwashed coma state that society has us in. You know, I mean, almost every person that comes to me, whether it's for coaching or whether it's for a reading or whether it's a friend, it's all based on what they believe the limitations are in life, not recognizing maybe the limitations that society has created a false reality, which is why you keep hearing us say, get out in nature, spend time alone, do the things you love. You have to get back to you. You have to get back to you, because in a Native American tribe, you would have been you. No matter what that was, you were needed and valued. Even if you were the bottom of the heap, you were needed and valued. And here we're told that to be anybody, whether it's in a relationship or to be a parent or to, you know, be a success and make money, we have these ideals about success and, you know, what you have to do to make it in the world. That's one of the worst phrases I hear. How are you going to make it in the world? And, you know, I was brought up very cultured. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. Into the arts, into the music, like, you know, into history, and all that's wonderful. But there's a downside to that too. If you're so cultured that you're caught up in the beliefs of what that culture or society is forcing upon you to the point where you're depressed and you feel like a nobody, then the clan isn't doing its job. So we've kind of evolved from clan, we call it evolution. We've evolved from the clan society to, you know, whatever, community or whatever, you know, but the communities function differently, which takes us back to the first broadcast. Right. Where Chris wanted to talk about community. And, you know, there's a reason why community works for humans. But what I find now is when we try to create community in the workplace or community in the schools, it doesn't seem to work because we're not doing it authentically. We're creating a false, I feel like it's just a false shell. I don't even know what to call it yet.
It's like a hierarchy, right? Like everybody has to own it. You know, it's their we were, like, or lead it, right? Like,
Yep.
it's like an egoic pedestal they want to be placed. We want to place our. I'm going to say we, because I've been there too. It's got to be mine. It's got to be under my influence or my control. And when we can humble ourselves a little bit and realize, like, hey, I have gifts, but so does everybody else. So how do we inspire everybody to come together in the best ways? Like, you don't want to give the marketing department over to an introvert who's afraid to talk to people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to want somebody that wants to go out there and, wants to hear the no's, that wants to get the message out there, that's fired up, all those things, because they're going to do a better job. Or someone who loves to cook. I don't have the sensitivity of the palate that I know a lot of other people have. Like, I can't taste individual ingredient. Like, people ask, how is it? I'm like, it's good. That's as fancy as I get, right? It's good. I don't really care for it, whatever. But you probably don't want me to necessarily be making the food for everybody, even though from what I was told that I'm a good cook. I don't have that sensitive palate to where, and other people do. So, that can be your role. That could be your responsibility.
Right.
I'll help in other ways. To make it. Maybe I do the dishes or whatever it is. Everybody needs to play their part. Everybody plays a role, and that is the community. It's not just, it has to be mine, like, leading a circle. Everybody's becoming these spiritual gurus and leaders now, right? And that's awesome. I'm not taking anything away from it. But there's so much that I've learned by sitting as a participant in other people's circles that I would have never gained had I just led my own circles all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's awesome. Look, guys, I mean, this is, I say these things very blatantly, and because the bottom line is somebody has to say this stuff or be willing to admit it for others to recognize, okay, maybe that it is. I hear everybody talking in small, safe groups where they feel safe, where they're not going to be judged. But where do I see people being brave enough to come out and say it? And believe me, I'm not, I believe in integrity. I don't believe in just going out and spouting your mouth everywhere. I believe that opinions are like assholes and everybody has one. I mean, honestly, I don't, but when it comes to this, when it comes to the undercurrent of what we're doing, or when it comes to pushing stuff under the rug or an undercurrent, I feel a strong pull to speak up. And I'm a big believer in silence. You wouldn't know that with all my broadcasts, but I'm a huge I believe silence is one of the most powerful things that we have.
Sure.
And in most situations, I exude extreme silence and I will wait and let others talk. I think those that speak are usually the fools. But here we are trying to share things with people and be a voice maybe for people that have been wondering about this or questioning it or are afraid to say it.
Sure.
And that's why it's been able to, that's why all the things that we know are wrong in society have been allowed to go on as long as they have. If everybody had the guts to rise up and say, no, we're not doing this,
right,
which they won't do if they're brainwashed. And it's obvious. I mean, you can argue with someone who's brainwashed and they're going to, fight to the death.
Cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Right. So we need to remember that our mind is a powerful tool, which is why I do mindset coaching. If you aren't aware of what you're being programmed with and you're not choosing something different, that's your responsibility. And you might not even be aware of it, but the truth is, guys, is nature is what's real. If you were to take away everything the Starbucks, the schools, the bars, the gambling facilities, the cars, the shopping malls, the movies, all of that, I hate to tell you, but that's what's real. And you are part of that nature. I mean, when you guys, I love Naked and Afraid. If you guys ever watched Naked and Afraid, I'm an outdoor survival girl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I've had years of outdoor survival training, and I wouldn't do that show for $1 billion, because most people don't, they're so separated from the reality of it. I guarantee you 1 hour alone in the dark, in the middle of a tropical jungle or a forest. I mean, I know people that won't even walk through the barn at night in the dark.
Right.
Without the lights on.
Right.
Okay. I would happily go gallivanting out into the woods in the middle of the night with no flashlight. I'd prefer no flashlight, please. Thank you very much. Because it messes up my vision.
Right.
But the point is that is reality. And
right.
that is actually what our brain and body is set up for.
Right.
So the clan community, where we have a little safe area within nature, but we still recognize that we have to be humbled by nature, is important. And I know a lot of people that might hear this might, oh my God, like, that's like Neanderthal times. What is she talking about? She's not up with the times. Well, what is up with the times exactly? What is that? Well, what does that even mean? We made that up.
In 1 minute, the grid could just collapse, right? And then
and
we're right back there, I mean, and you always hear it from our grandparents, right? Like when we use calculators, they're like, oh, well, if you don't know how to do it the long way, then, what happens when you don't have a calculator, and.
But that's true. That's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how do we learn from our elders? I mean, I was talking to my son about video games, and it was like, buddy, like I know that you love video games, and I don't want to take that joyful thing away from you, but what else are you going to do beyond the video game? And then he started to admit to me, he's like, yeah, I'm getting really bored of the video games. Like, they're not doing it for me anymore. Like, it's like Eckhart Tolle talks about, right? Like,
right.
Go into it, fully go into it, committed, and then eventually you're going to get to a point to where it doesn't serve you anymore. And then you're just going to be like, okay, this has been rad. I'm done with this. Thank you for the experience, but I don't need it anymore. And he's kind of getting to that point. So now the conversation shifted to like, what would you like to try? Would you like to learn about some kind of art? Would you like to take up a sport or martial arts, or would you like to go out in nature, and learn about plants and all those different things? And it was a very gratifying conversation. And it was interesting to me, Larkin, the things that I had mentioned, he wasn't interested in most of the things, except for the things that his dad could help him with. He was interested he was interested in photography. He was interested in learning about plants and animals.
So you got to the core of what was really going on, and what he really valued.
Right.
And that's really important.
Yeah, wow. It was a really cool conversation. And had I been on the other side of that and making him feel lesser than for doing what he was doing, I don't know if he would ever look at it that way, because I know I didn't. When I was told what I was doing wasn't important, or, I was wrong, or I should be doing something else, or I should be different, or whatever, like that brought me down. And I think that to me is, we're always going to be a part of community, whether we realize it or not. I mean, we can't live this life without affecting other people. But if we can be honored for where we are at in our journey, we're going to be inspired to participate more in less selfish ways.
Absolutely. No, I think that's kind of the core of it, is we're so far away from that at this point. Like, we're so So I'm trying to restore this to see if it works on my computer. We're so far out of the loop now with that. You know what I mean? Like we're so many generations away from that to some of you, we're talking about this and it's going to be like, oh yeah, it's going to be making sense. Some of you are going to be like, wow, yeah, this is powerful. Some of you are going to be like, let's explore this. Some of you are going to be like, what the hell are they talking about? And I think it would be a shame for us to have to go all the way back and destroy everything we have in order to get back to that. But, you know, if shit were to hit the fan and everything was torn apart and collapsed right now, that's what would happen.
Right.
We would automatically go back to that clan mode because, like it or not, guys, we're still animals surviving.
Right.
When you and I know people don't like this, you know, religion has said we're not animals. We are animals. You are a plant or you are an animal. So you'll notice on my animal interpreter page, I say non-human animals when I refer to animals, right? We are animals. We are living organic organisms, and our number one priority is to survive. When you take that away from any animal and you give them too much, even if it's mice or rats or ants or whatever, butterflies, they become a problem.
Right. And
they create their own problems. And that's what we're doing.
Right.
So, you know, it's exceedingly irresponsible to, you know, and this isn't an opinion, guys. This is fact. You can look it up. This has happened over and over and over and over and over. So the question is, if we're not the most intelligent beings in the earth, if we're the most cognitively intelligent beings on the planet, then it's our responsibility, if we really want those lives we say we want, to be working together. And this is one of the reasons why Chris and I are doing this instead of the carbon copy businesses that would bring us an instant $1 million. That is for those to get a temporary satisfaction for what they think they want for themselves under the guise of helping others.
Right.
Then there's really stepping out there and wanting to contribute to society and contribute to people. And that's where it's at. Despite what people say, I mean, you know, I've had people say to me, well, you know, then why aren't you doing this and that? You know, because I've taught people to build their businesses for years. Because it's more important to build them authentically and have something that lasts and have that lasting inner fulfillment and everything that comes back to you with it.
Right.
Then to jump out there, do a carbon copy thing, just try to get money out of people so that you can say, I've made it. I'm successful. I've made $1 million.
And I was talking to a friend about this last night. It's, and we've talked about it before as well. It's easy to manifest. The hard part's maintaining it. So if you're manifesting out of an egoic desire for approval or acceptance or whatever that thing is, once you have it and it doesn't have what you thought it would, you can't deceive yourself anymore. You know,
That's right.
You can't deny that it doesn't bring you fulfillment anymore. And then the motivation gets really hard because there's not a moral obligation to it. But if, you know, we're morally obligated to do our best, to show up, to help where we can, to be of service in the ways that we can, you know, that has a morality to it that doesn't need motivation, you know, because that's our true essence. And it is the way it is. Like, I can be in a crap mood, but if somebody needs help, I'm going to put my stuff aside so I can go help this one person or this group of people, whatever it is, do my best. And then I can get back to the other stuff later.
Absolutely.
But it's It's 1:11. Do you want to wrap this up, Larkin? I got a client coming over, so.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's fine. Can you add me to stage first, please? See if it works on the computer now.
You're on stage.
Well, can you do it on my? Oh, I'm on as a guest. Oops. I guess I'm on as a guest.
I can remove you and re-add you.
Yeah, let me get out of there. Hold on.
Okay. There it was.
All right. Well, let me get out of this one.
Okay.
Let me try this. That way I can end it with the. I think I fixed my camera. I'm gonna need it for all my readings later, so better do it now than in my car later.
Yeah, Leon asked about your readings today. You were out, so.
Oh, okay. Big surprise.
Thank you so much, Robin, Nanette, Deborah for.
Come on, twice.
Whoa.